If you want these horror stories to continue, please subscribe now and don't forget to like. The cave was not on any map. I found it by accident while hiking far beyond the marked trail where the forest grew unnaturally silent. No birds, no wind, just a dark crack in the mountain breathing cold air like a living thing. I should have turned back. Instead, I stepped inside. The light from my flashlight barely touched the walls. They were smooth, as if something had been licking them for years. Deeper in, I noticed scratches, long, uneven lines, too wide to be human fingers. I told myself they were made by animals. My voice echoed strangely, as if the cave repeated my words a second too late. After walking for what felt like an hour, my watch stopped. My phone had no signal, no time, no battery warning, just a black screen. The air grew warmer, heavier. I heard water dripping somewhere ahead. But when I followed the sound, it stopped instantly, like it knew I was listening. I found old equipment on the ground, a helmet, rusted tools, a torn backpack. Someone had been here before. Written on the cave wall in dried black marks were the words, "Do not follow the voices." That was when I heard whispering. The whispers didn't echo. They came directly into my head. They spoke my name, softly, patiently. They promised a way out. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The cave floor trembled slightly like a heartbeat beneath the stone. I turned around to leave, and the tunnel behind me was gone. Solid rock, no cracks, no opening. Panic rose in my chest as the whispers laughed, no longer pretending to be kind. Shadows moved along the walls without a source. I ran deeper, lungs burning, mind breaking. The cave opened into a massive chamber filled with bones, human and animal mixed together. In the center stood a hole descending into darkness, so deep my light couldn't reach the bottom. Something climbed out of the hole. It was tall, thin, and wrong. Its limbs bent the wrong way, its face smooth like wet stone. It didn't walk. It slid. When it spoke, it used my voice. It told me the cave feeds on fear, that everyone who enters becomes part of it. Memories first, then bodies. Escape was possible, it said, but only if I left something behind. I don't remember what I gave up. I only remember waking up outside the cave at sunrise, shaking, alone. When I checked my reflection in my phone, I realized something was missing. I couldn't remember my own name. I walked away from the mountain without looking back, but the feeling never left. The air outside felt wrong, too thin, too quiet. People passed me on the trail, smiling, talking, yet none of their faces stayed in my memory. When they spoke, their voices blurred together like echoes trapped in stone. That night, I dreamed of the cave breathing. I woke up with dirt under my fingernails and dried blood on my boots. I had no memory of leaving my bed. My phone showed photos I didn't remember taking. Dark tunnels, bone, piles, and my own shadow stretched unnaturally long on the cave wall. One photo showed something standing behind me. I tried to tell myself it was trauma, hallucinations, but the whispers returned, faint at first, always when I was alone. They didn't tell me to go back. They told me the cave had followed me out. Food began to taste like dust. Water left a metallic burn in my throat. Mirrors felt dangerous. When I finally forced myself to look, my reflection lagged behind my movements by a fraction of a second. smiling when I didn't. I found more writing on my walls one morning, carved deep into the plaster. You took too little. I didn't remember carving it. My hands were sore, my knuckles split open. The whispers grew angry. At night, the floor vibrated with the same slow heartbeat I had felt inside the cave. Shadows gathered in the corners of my room, stretching upward, reshaping themselves into tall, thin figures that vanished when the lights turned on. I started losing time, hours, sometimes days. I would wake up in unfamiliar places, bus stops, abandoned buildings, forest edges. Each time, my shoes were coated in damp gray dust that smelled like old stone. One night, the thing spoke clearly. "You belong to the cave now," it said, using a voice that almost sounded like mine. It told me the truth. I hadn't escaped. I had been released to bring others back. I tried to resist. I tied myself to my bed. I destroyed my maps. I avoided the forest. It didn't matter. The cave no longer needed my body. It lived inside the empty space where my name used to be. This morning, I found muddy footprints leading out of my house. Large ones. Too many. All heading toward the mountains. My door was open. My bag was packed. I don't feel afraid anymore. That's how I know it's already won. I followed the footprints without questioning why. The forest opened for me as if it recognized my steps. Trees leaned away, branches lifted, and the path revealed itself. Old, worn smooth by countless returns. I realized then that this trail had never been lost. It had only been waiting. The cave mouth yawned wider than before, not larger, hungrier. The air inside moved outward in slow breaths, warm and damp, carrying the smell of rot and memory. I understood something terrible. The cave did not hunt. It waited for those who were already empty. Inside, the walls pulsed faintly, veins of pale light running through stone like buried nerves, shapes pressed against the rock from within. Faces, hands, torsos, frozen in silent screams, not dead, stored. The whispers welcomed me home. Deeper inside, I saw them, people I had passed on trails, in towns, on buses, smiles I couldn't remember, voices that blurred together. They stood motionless, eyes open, mouths moving without sound, feeding the cave with their fear, their guilt, their unfinished lives. At the center was the hollow, the place where the cave thought. It showed me the truth. I had never been chosen. The end